Hey, heavy hitters. Thank you for tuning in again. Yeah, Tribe, I got a special guest for you today. His name's Little Bobby Nelson. You're good with the entire name?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm called since birth.
Well, he's been called a few other things, I'm sure, but he goes by the name Cheese, and
Right.
he'll explain throughout the story as to why he's called Cheese. So Bobby's been both to the state and to the feds. But once again, none of that shit matters. What matters is what Bobby's doing today, and we'll get to that later. But it took what it took for you to flip this around to get on the
Right.
path where you're headed today. You know what I mean? Because we come out and we're not right. We're just not right.
Right.
You know what I mean? I
Exactly.
don't care if you did
Exactly.
2 years, 8 months, or if you did 6 months, whatever. You come out, you're still not right. You know what I mean? Like you're
Right.
now on high tactical alert. Uh, the shorter the sentence, the more fucked up you come out because
Right.
there you at least learn to program. You know what I mean? And mentally, you know what your day is going to be tomorrow,
Right.
but there might be some interruption with some violence or something along those lines. But you know what your day is going to be.
Right.
Out here, you never know. And getting a job, shit. I know most people lay around waiting for a job ducat to be on their pillow, right?
Right. Yeah. Be put on the call out. This is where you got to be. Your normal schedule. No, it ain't like that no more.
Right.
Like I say, for me, the biggest thing, the biggest transition was the respect issue. Like you always say, man, it's all about respect, and there is no respect out here. And people, that's what they don't realize is that, man, the mentality that you have, no matter where you're at, locked up, be it California or Iowa, like I have been, or anywhere, New York, Florida, locked up is locked up, man. You're in a cage like an animal. And to feel that, like you said, you got to overcome that mind. You got to be able to overcome yourself.
And
And that's
respect
what I
is a
had to do.
huge
I was
factor
locked up.
for us. Respect is first and
Right.
foremost inside, you know. Anyway, uh, Bobby, first of all, introduce yourself.
Like I said, my name's Little Bobby Nelson. Everybody used to call me Big Cheese when I was locked up in the feds. I got my name Cheese when I was 16, but like I said, my name's Little Bobby Nelson. Everybody called me Cheese.
Right.
Cheese or Big Cheese.
Cheese and
A
big
few
cheese.
people know a few people know me as Fat Bastard too, but you know what I mean.
Right.
That's
I'm sure there's a few out there that go by
that,
asshole as well, right?
right,
You
right.
know.
There's quite those, but
So
yeah, right,
obviously, behaviors started before you landed in the pen. You were behaving a
right,
certain way. So I like parents on here to catch on to the behaviors of their
yes,
kids first and
right,
foremost. Coming home late, sneaking
right,
in the window, sneaking out the window,
right,
just blatantly not giving a shit what you tell them to do. And it could be as
yeah,
simple as not doing the dishes, man, or taking out the trash. That's where it start. You know what I mean? If you let not taking out the trash slide, that means you might let this next thing slide, and this next thing slide, this next thing slide. Next thing you know, little Bobby Nelson's your celly, and a 6x9. That's not much room to move around Bobby. You know what I mean? He on the shitter. You
no,
guys might be in trouble.
no, I'm a big dude, so yeah, it wasn't easy to get around with me. But
Yeah,
you're right. I don't, when I tell my story to people, I don't tell it to glorify where I've been and what I've done, because that, to me, it's not about the glorification. It's what I went through, what I learned, and what I'm doing with myself today. So when I tell my story and I tell people what's going on with me, then I'm trying to say it to, like you said, so these parents can see the flaws in what's going on and they can recognize that type of behavior early. Or a kid, because there's been many kids I've been around, and when they try to pull them little stunts, I tell them, man, listen, I wasn't born yesterday. Everything you're
right.
doing, I've done 3 times already. So you know what I mean. That's where I try to go with with me. I try to help people.
I've
You know,
forgotten more about the game than you'll ever learn. You know what I mean? That's one of my.
right, right.
So,
You
all right.
know,
Well, why don't you lay out your life, man? Do it in bits and pieces.
like I
Just the rough edges. Get us to the rough edges.
okay,
Led you where you were. White powder.
okay, well,
You know. Go ahead.
right. I'll start out, like I said, from early childhood, where I started to recognize my behaviors where they started to turn, which was in grade school. I caught my first theft for stealing sunglasses at 8. Had to do hands-off programs, so on and so forth. And then after that, I just started stacking up assault charges. I was real violent. I had an angry disposition because when I was 3, my biological mother sold custody of me to my dad. So I mean, I had a really rough upbringing. I rejected my stepmom for till I was 16. Then I finally accepted her, and we built a good relationship from there. But I was already tarnished mentally because of what I'd gone through with my real mom. And then, like I said, growing up, my dad was the best dad I could have had in the world, for real. He provided everything. We never wanted for anything. I mean, always a hot meal, a hot bed. I mean, my dad's my hero today, But man, him and I have been through rough patches. I didn't have the best when I was, you know what I mean? And like I said, I'm hard-headed, he's hard-headed, so we're both violent, and
Him wanting the
like I
best.
said,
Sorry, him wanting
right?
the best for you probably led to a lot of disappointment and this and that. You know what I mean? So you can only see when you're a pup, you can only see your version of shit, not his version. You know what I'm saying? So
I
I
saw
didn't
the forest, but all I see was the trees, right? Right.
yeah.
Exactly right. I mean, I didn't see what was trying to point out to me at that age, and I wish that I would have, man. It took till I was 17 getting arraigned to adult court out of juvenile court and catching a state bit, man. I caught a 2-year, 8-month state bit. But to back it up a step, like growing up, right around the age of 15 to 16, I started to hang out with the wrong people doing the wrong things. And I wound up in the juvenile system. I went through a juvenile boot camp. I was in like the Boys and Girls Home, family facility, alternative school. I was in behavior classes throughout grade school, middle school, high school. Uh, seven.
I took the Dork bus. I had to be on the Dork
Right,
bus.
right. I was right. You know what I mean? I thought I was king of the hill. You know what I mean? I thought I was a big Billy Badass or whatever. Excuse my language. I thought, you know what I mean? I grew up because for me growing up, it was hard to. My dad was a legend where I was at. So for me to fill them shoes, man, it was hard to do. And then my mom was well known, and it just, man, I thought I had to fill this void, and I chose to go the wrong path with it. But like I said, at 17, I caught my state case. I got a second-degree theft for stealing a car, operating without owner's consent, uh, and yeah, those were the two that stuck because they dropped a first-degree theft, and I can't remember, like a simple assault. So I took a kid out of his car, drove it around the school, drove it around town, then brought him back to school, got out. You know what I mean? I thought, like I said, I thought I was that one. I came out of school. I said, hey, I need to go somewhere. And he's like, well, I'm not taking you. I'm like, so I pulled him out of his car, put him in the back seat, and said, well, now you are.
And now, in today's society, that would be considered a carjacking, a kidnapping.
Right. And that's a life sentence.
Yeah, I mean, taking against their will, it could have seriously, those would have really been your charges in today's society, Back then,
right.
got away with a little bit more shit. I remember.
Right, and I think about that today because, like you said, and that's what I think about. I'm like, man, I've done some crazy shit that could have done, or some crazy stuff that could have put me gone forever.
I say that all the time. Yeah, for sure. Right. I remember one time my homeboy got pulled over in Bullhead, driving sort of buzzed, you know what I mean? Like drunk driving, basically. And this was early 80s. And the cop said, get in the car and I'll follow you home. Like he did, he tested him and he knew he wasn't that drunk, but he followed us home, bro, instead of, in today's society, they don't do that shit, man. I mean, they're wrapping you up, you know what I mean? Because it was a small town, I mean, he literally followed us. We were like a block and a half away from home, and he's like, which is where you usually get busted or in an accident, you know what I mean? Yeah. Within 2 miles of your home. Anyway, He followed us home, and, like, people don't get that love today, So you got a lot of love. Right.
I've had that once or twice. Like I had it once when I was 16. I got into a fist fight with a kid that I went to school with. I mean, we were going blow for blow. We were too big. We were about the same size, so we were getting it with each other. And police show up. I take off one way. He takes off another way. I'm a good 3 blocks ahead of this cop. And all of a sudden I hear feet pounding. I turn around and he's like 6 feet behind me. And I'm like, what the? So I stop. Whoa. He snatches me up, grabs my ID. the chief of the police for this little town, because it's only like 70,000 people, he shows up, looks at my ID and smiles.
He
I thought,
knows your
oh,
dad.
I'm going to jail. He hands me
Oh,
my ID. He said, look, here's what we're going to do. You're going to walk across the bridge, and you're never coming back over here for the rest of the summer. He said, and by the way, I'm calling your dad. I begged him to take me to jail. I was like, please just take me to jail for real. Please. But he knew my dad, man. You know, from when my dad was doing it.
As soon as you said that, I knew that he knew your dad. I was like, he knew your dad.
Man, I've had that happen to me as an adult too. After I got out of the state joint, got into some trouble, and lieutenant showed up and he's like, "Oh no, we ain't gonna give you a ticket or take you to jail. I'll just let your dad know." I said, "Please don't call him tonight. Let him sleep. You know what I mean? Or just take me to jail." No,
Right.
no, we ain't gonna. But yeah, I've had that a couple times. But you don't get that today no more.
No.
You're right. And even in that, you know, it's not glorifying the whole situation of what was going on, but man, people aren't aware of their surroundings and the types of things. It don't matter where you're at and what you're doing, man. You never know who knows you or your family. But I've had that grace period where people, like I'm saying, you never know who you know or who knows you. Or like I always tell people, for me today, man, you don't know the example that you're setting for somebody or what somebody's going to watch you and do. So to me, I try to step right and I try to do right at all times, no matter where I'm at and who I'm around. I'll hold that door for a lady or even a man or whatever. I mean, an old lady needs help across the street. I'm going to help her. You know, I see a dog running down the block. I try to grab it to see if there's a tag on it. You know, I'm trying to get back that positive energy to the universe today for what I've soiled before.
Right.
I know I have.
Uh,
Like I said, man, I try to project positive today. You know, like I didn't waste my whole time when I was locked up. I did quite a few good things, but to get back to where I was, I caught my state case when I was 17. I actually was in juvenile court at the time with the case, and me to being a repeat delinquent offender, they waived me to adult court at 17. I sat in juvenile detention until the day that I was sentenced. The day I got sentenced as an adult, they brought me back to juvenile detention, put me in the front holding, brought me out my property, and the sheriffs were there to give me an hour later and take me to the Iowa Medical and Classification Center in Oakdale, Iowa. It's where everybody goes through. It's we call it MCC, or the IMCC, because we all go there. It's classification.
how did you
Went
feel
there, I mean,
sitting in the back seat of that car, knowing that she was now leaving, minor leagues and you're heading to the big boys? Because I know you've experienced fear. Yeah, I mean, I know you had to experience some fear.
without a doubt, because there were two other dudes in the car with me, and one of them was bigger than me.
Right.
So I'm sitting here, this little bitty dude, man. My heart's just beating 1,000 miles an hour. I mean, I ain't scared to say it, man. I was scared to death. I didn't know what I was getting into.
But you couldn't portray any of that. You had to put that hard look on, though, huh?
Oh, man, you got to look around. You know what I mean? Like, hey, yeah, man, I'm little Bobby Nelson. You know what I mean? Don't nobody mess with me out here.
Right.
You know, and I had to keep portraying that. You know, and even when you get inside, you got to portray that, and then you got to stand on certain things, and it just, if you're true to yourself, then you'll be good, and that's what I was. I was true to myself.
Yeah, you weren't trying to be somebody you're not.
No, because, I mean, like I said, throughout my childhood, man, I grew up with Southsiders, man. I just, like I said, went to a service yesterday for one of them, my homeboy. Man, I grew up around that type of stuff out here. My dad was a 1%er before I was born. So I've grew up around different cultures, different people. My best friend that's like a brother to me out here is black dude, man. He's a gangster disciple. And people look at that and they're like, man, how is that with the path you walk, the things you do? Man, because I judge a person for who they are. That's what my faith and my God of understanding tells me to do, is to treat each man as a man and a woman as a woman, and protect the women and the children and try to continue with what you got going on. But for you to leave your mark on the universe, you've got to leave a good one. So for me, every human deserves respect. Until they don't give that respect, then that's a whole other ballgame. But
so let me ask you,
like I said,
you get inside, you're 17, you're about to turn 18, you got your little mustache starting up. You know what I mean? Right at that age, you got
Right, right.
your little pubes are starting to come in, and now you're in there with the big boys. You
Man.
know, you're going to a county jail, Standard County Jail at this point, or are you headed straight to the pen?
No, I went straight to the pen. They took me, like I said, they took me out of juvenile detention. And since I was sentenced as an adult, I couldn't be in the back with the other juveniles. So they took me 3 hours after I got sentenced. I was on my way to the classification center for the pins and for the joints in Iowa. I was right on my way. I mean, straight from juvenile detention straight to adult jail I mean, where they go in, they shave your head, they
Right.
delouse you, all of that. I mean,
Yeah, standard
like I said, it was a trip, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
the haircut
for
coming
real,
in.
I can sit there and I remember details, man. I can like
Go ahead.
okay. I can remember details, man, where it's like I can play them like I'm watching TV. You know, like I said, when you have that sort of fear in your heart because you don't know what's going to go on and you don't know where your life's going to go, you remember things, man. And that is not fun. That ain't what I like.
Sticks
You
with
know,
you.
I was scared to death going there. I'm not gonna lie.
I remember.
You know, but like you said, man, I couldn't show it, so I puffed you know how it is. You puff the old little chest up, walk around. You know, yeah, man, I did that. I did that. I was a fool, you know.
I remember walking into reception, cuffed up. You know what I mean? Got the single chain wrap. You know what I mean? Thinking,
Right.
fuck, and I look up on the wall and it says warning, no warning shots. You know what I mean? And that sort of took the wind right out of me. I was like, what? You know what I mean? Like, because they ain't playing once you hit the house. You know? Yeah.
Right.
Just those few words.
For me, that was
just those few words on the wall deflated my toughness. You know what I mean? And then 5 minutes later, I was even harder. You know what I mean? Like fucking, all right, you know they're gonna shoot us too, so I'm gonna act hard. You act hard. You stay on your side. I'll stay. You know, that's pretty much how I did it. You know what I mean? So, do they have the same policy up there? Warning, no warning shots.
Well, there's in Iowa, it really isn't live like that is out there in California. Your biggest thing that you'll worry about is fist fights, man. I mean, you will get the occasional stabbing, but it's not like it is out there. A lot of it's fist fights. Everybody's fighting. So you had to, like I said, growing up, you had to know how to fight. You know, you couldn't run your mouth to one person and expect that you're not going to handle that because it's on site. You handle that immediately, you know. But like I said, for me, my first experience when I came in, I remember when we were in the car and they slid the gate open. We drove in. Then they drove the car. They brought the door up, the garage door up. We drove in that shut behind us. We get out, and the first guard I see, bro, is a guard that they used to call Cyclops. He had one eye. The other one was, I mean, and I'm thinking, oh, what did I just get myself into? Where am I going? And I mean, he is no little dude, man. He's a good 6'5", 6'6" dude. You know,
steroided out.
Like, man, yeah. Right, and I'm like, whoa, what am I gonna do with the you know? I'm like, man, it's insane. And then it's like when you hit the gates, man, you feel that drain. It just like your life drains out of you, and you don't lose that until you get back out. And then after you're out for a while, it starts to come back, but you never lose that drain the whole time you're doing time, man. It's always that pressure of how you're gonna live from day to day. What's gonna You know, if you're going to be able to throw down that ramen spread or whatever you're going to do, you know, that's the life that
out here. You know, out here is rough. Out here is rough because if you ain't got that ramen spread in there, guess what? You got some fucking Wellington beef patties being served in the chow hall. You know what I mean? Like you got some slop being served to you in there. Out here, you don't. You know what I mean? You got to hustle up. You want to eat. And you got to work for that food out here. You want to pick those lights that are on around you. You got to work for that. You know what I mean? That toothpaste in the bathroom.
You got to put in the work.
Your ass with. You know what I mean? People go, oh, the rent's this much out here,
right?
And they ain't picturing toilet paper. You know what I mean? Like all that shit came to me a shock. Like what? We don't get 2 rolls a month in here, or what? Out here,
right? Where's my issue?
Right.
Where's my issue?
And you're working
where's
for
my issue at? Yeah.
So you're 17 hitting, you're hitting the joint. Okay, you're a big guy. You know, are you? I don't know how it is back there. Like, are you expected to just run your program? Are you joining up into a car? Do you? I mean, I don't know how your guys ride back there. Like, are
Well,
you
see,
allowed to associate with whomever you want to associate with? Can you break bread, shake hands, and all that shit with whoever you want to?
you
Like,
actually out here in Iowa, you can, man. It's real wide open in Iowa. They will in our state penitentiaries. They don't care who you are and what you are. They will put you in a cell with whoever they feel like they want to put you in there with. I mean, you could be a key holder on the yard for the white guys and a key holder for the black guys, and they'll put you both in the same cell, hoping you get into a fight. When they slam you down into our shoes, man, they put you in there for quite a while. I mean, and they're no fun, but yeah, it's wide open out here. Like I said, it's all physical fighting out here, more or less. Like a lot of dudes, man. Our state system here, bro, they protect the rapists and the chomos. If you put your hands on them dudes, you're getting street cases with mandatory minimums on them cases.
I heard that. You know, I just did a video with Big Lance, and he told me that people were getting snapped off 15 or 20 for putting heat in their back or their neck or whatever, you know what I mean, their chest.
Right.
Like,
yes.
You know, I mean,
you kill them, it's a life sentence every day, day for day. And Iowa's life sentence is day for day. If you get that elbow, you get that life sentence, you're not coming out unless you're dead. Period.
That's a wrap.
It's over with. It's a wrap, man. And like I said, anytime like you do severe violence, like with knives or like with what we used to call the sissy knife, the razor blade and the toothbrush.
That's a tomahawk. That ain't no sissy knife.
But we called it the sissy knife because a lot of the homosexuals in the joint, that was their knife of choice. So
right, yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Right. So that's like we figure if you're going to use something to cut somebody, you might as well go get a piece of steel.
Well, if all you do is cutting, let me tell you, them tomahawks will cut you good. You know what I mean? But
brother, I've seen it. I know what they do. I know. I know they are. That's why I said sometimes I prefer that over the sticker. But
for sure, because it'll do just as much damage, man, across all the arteries. You know what I mean?
Right. But my first prison that I went to when I was 17 is they put me in what they call Mount Pleasant. It's a treatment facility. You have drug treatment on one side, criminal thinking, moral development, all of that type of song and dance, and then on the other side is the sex offenders. They have their own side and all that, and they try to intermingle them sometimes. But man, like I said, they protect them there. It's sickening. If I were to put my hands on one of them, I'd catch a street case, and they'd get paid.
So, are there blind spots where you could deal with all that shit? I mean,
oh yes.
So I mean, it can be dealt with anyway, but it's not mandatory that you step up. It's something you got to feel in your heart that you want to do. Nobody's sending you to that mission, right? Nobody's
if you join a crew, then that's by your choice. You don't have to do any of that in our state joints. I mean, if you join a crew,
sounds like a vacation, little, you know what I mean? Like
that's what I said. Iowa time is not hard to do, man, and that's why when I hit the feds, that was a huge reality check.
So we're going to be getting to the feds here in a minute. Did you have to put in? Did you end up putting in any work as a pup? Did anything make inside you go, you know what, fuck that? I'm going to show these guys who Bob Nelson is.
Right. I've stood up a few times. I had to let a few people know, you know what I mean, on that, like the respect level. You know, they come out disrespectful. I've had to throw my hands a few times. Like I said, Mount Pleasant was actually the first time I threw hands with the kid. He disrespected me in the towel hall. I put my tray up, told him, hey, come on, let's go. Let's hit the stairwell. Because Mount Pleasant, they didn't have cameras in the stairwell. So me and him got on the platform. Yep, he had his homeboy. I had my homeboy. We were right there on the platform. We threw down. We were done. When we got done, we're good. Okay, we shook hands. Went about our business.
Was he a white inmate or a black inmate or a Mexican?
He was white. He was white. My first one was white.
Yeah, so you get a heads up. That's fair.
Right. My juicy stuff for the racial stuff is in the feds. Like I said, I went through quite a bit in the feds with the whole racial my whole racial awakening, all of that sort of stuff happened in the Fed joint. So, like I
So
said,
you went through the state with not too many problems. You
no,
parole, and then
no. What happened in the state is I had a 5-year bit, and on my 5-year bit, when you first come in, they cut that in half to 2.5 years right away, and then you get good time on top of that. So after 8 months, I saw the pro board. They gave me a work release. Me being the knucklehead I was, decided that I wanted to get into a fight over a phone because I wanted to use the phone before somebody else, and I thought I was going to be a tough guy and try to grab it. Well, I found out he could fight too. So
you
I
ended up
lost
putting
my.
hands on you, or what?
No, not real bad. I mean, it back and forth. He got the better of me. You know what I mean? Because he was older. Like I said, I was like what 17, 18 at the time. 18.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's in his 30s. Oh yeah, he tuned me up a bit. I got a little black eye behind it.
Right.
But I took that. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You fight another day. But I wound up going to the shoe for that. I lost my work release. A year later,
Do the shoe.
do what now?
How much time did you do in the shoe?
For that, I did 30 days.
And how much time did you lose?
I think 7 days is what they start out with. You lose 7 days, and then 14, and then 28, and then 56, and just keeps going up like that. So,
Well,
like I said,
doesn't sound like you had too rough of a time in the state. So on part 2, we're gonna go ahead and venture off to the feds.
okay.
At 17, you came home. You weren't done, obviously. You know what I mean? Obviously, you weren't done with it. All you did was learn some shit and learn how to get away, do some other crimes and whatever. You know what I mean? Which you went to school to become a criminal at that point, as they sent you to school.
I got out. I went in at 17, got out at 19 after 2 years and 8 months. So,
All right. All right, Bobby. Well, part 2, we're going to discuss the feds. How's that? Yep.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. All right. So listen, guys, some people want it to happen. Some people need it to happen. Heavy hitters make it happen.
Make it happen.
Hear what he's saying. Pay attention to what your kid's doing. Pay attention to what you're doing, man. Like, I can tell he's trying to be respectful on the channel for you guys, and that's great. I appreciate that, watching the language and all that. But don't let your kids be the next Bobby Nelson, man. You know what I mean? Don't let your kids be the next Badger. It's not the place you want to send them. So, guys, thank you for tuning in, Tribe. And we'll check out little Bobby Nelson's story on with the feds in part 2. Peace out.